Hello, I'm John David Bruja on location at the Fairport Harbor West Breakwater Lighthouse, and welcome to a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner, United States Lighthouse Society Lake Erie South Tour. Welcome to episode 3, the final episode of the United States Lighthouse Society Lake Erie South Tour. Well, we made it to our next lighthouse, the Fairport Harbor Marine Museum and Lighthouse. It first arrived in 1825, the current one behind me in 1871, at a height of 69 feet with a third order Fresnel lens. In 1847, almost 3,000 vessels passed through the harbor. In fact, the Fairport Harbor Marine Museum and Lighthouse is the country's first lighthouse marine museum, which opened in 1945. Well, I made it up Fairport Harbor Marine Museum and Lighthouse Tower. Now I'm gonna go outside. And like the Fairport Harbor West Breakwater Lighthouse, you can see that one in the distance from the Fairport Harbor Lighthouse. Fairport Harbor Marine Museum and Lighthouse was also the final stop for the Underground Railroad, and they actually hid a lot of them in the lighthouse itself. We made it to our next lighthouse. You can see it in the distance. It's the Ashtabula Harbor Lighthouse. First arrived in 1825, the current one in 1871 at a height of 69 feet. It was automated in 1973 and is still active today. In fact, it was the last manned lighthouse on Lake Erie. Now we are going to go inside the Ashtabula Maritime and Surface Transportation Museum. It was founded in 1984. It was originally called the Great Lakes Marine and Coast Guard Memorial Museum. Inside the museum, there's over 2,500 historic artifacts on display. And once inside, you get to see the fourth order Fresnel lens that was installed at the Ashtabula Lighthouse in 1915 and removed in 1995. They even have a pilot's house of Thomas Waters. And if you look in the distance, you can see Ashtabula Harbor Lighthouse. Time for another bonus lighthouse, but this one is a full Clint Lighthouse. We reached our next lighthouse, Conneaut Harbor Lighthouse. It arrived in 1906 and the current is from 1936. It is a height of 70 feet. It was automated in 1972 and it alternates red-white lights. I'm standing in Covington, Kentucky to see the John A. Roebling Suspension Bridge that connects Cincinnati, Ohio to Covington, Kentucky. It was built in 1867 at over 1,000 feet, and at that time it was the longest suspension bridge in the world. The suspension bridge covers the Ohio River, and if you cross a suspension bridge like we did into Covington, Kentucky, you get great views of the Cincinnati skyline from across the river. Well, we're about to begin our last day of the Lake Erie South Tour, and it's going to be a full day. We have 2 cruises in hopes of seeing 3 lighthouses on each cruise. Well, we'll be boarding the Holiday for our 2-hour cruise of the Cleveland Harbor to see 3 Cleveland lighthouses. We are now coming up to the Cleveland Main Harbor entrance and the Cleveland East entrance lighthouse. The Cleveland Harbor main entrance had lighthouses before 1911, but that is the current one. at a height of 67 feet. But when it was built, it was known as West Pierhead Light. 1856, the light on the hill was discontinued, but temporarily relit in 1859. In 1854, a fourth order Fresnel lens was installed, and in 1965, the Cleveland Harbor main entrance was automated. Then 30 years later, in 1995, the fourth order lens was removed and replaced, and the lens was transferred to the Great Lakes Science Center. And in the distance is the Cleveland East Pierhead Lighthouse. The light was around as early as the 1880s. The current cylindrical iron tower was activated in 1911 at a height of 25 feet and marks the main entrance to Cleveland's inner harbor. And at one point, the light had a fifth order Fresnel lens and now is automated. A bonus light, the Cleveland Waterworks intake crib, which is over 100 years old and draws millions of gallons of drinking water from Lake Erie each year. The Cleveland East Entrance Lighthouse first was established in 1831 at a height of 47 feet. In 1918, a new skeletal tower was placed there at the east entrance with a red light flashing 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off. And on the way back, along with the Cleveland skyline, we passed by the USS Cod submarine, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the steamship William G. Mather, which sits next to the Great Lakes Science Center, and Huntington Bank Field, home of the Cleveland Browns. Well, we got to see 2 out of the 3 lighthouses, the Cleveland East entrance and the Cleveland Main Harbor entrance. We did see the other Cleveland Pierhead Lighthouse in the distance, and we also got a bonus light of the Crib Lighthouse. Is this me, or is it like deja vu? I swear we were just standing on this same spot 2 days ago, day 4 of our Lake Erie South tour, boarding the Glass City Pearl to see 3 lighthouses: Toledo Harbor, Turtle Island, and West Sister Island. But unfortunately, due to a malfunction at a railroad bridge not opening and allowing us through, we had to cancel the tour, and luckily enough reschedule it for Friday, day 6, the final day of our tour, to check out the lighthouses. So if at first you don't succeed, try again. That's right, in the distance, our first lighthouse, Turtle Island. Turtle Island Lighthouse was arrived in 1832. The current one behind me going up and down is arrived in 1866 at a height of 42 feet. In the distance, it's the Toledo Harbor Lighthouse. It arrived in 1904 at a height of 69 feet. It was automated in 1965, and it's roughly 8.5 miles from the mouth of the Maumee River. The Toledo Harbor Lighthouse replaced the 1837 lighthouse on Turtle Island. It's one of the most expensive lighthouses built on the Great Lakes and is still an active aid to navigation. And at our second full lighthouse, the Oregon Rear Range Lighthouse, we could see the Toledo Harbor Lighthouse in the distance. We did make it to West Sister Island Lighthouse, but unfortunately, because of the waves, I couldn't videotape there. I wanted to let you know that the lighthouse was on an island that was 82 acres in size. The limestone tower arrived in 1848 with a fourth order Fresnel lens, and ironically, it was less than 9 miles north of the Ohio mainland. Well, we are finally done. And I'm not talking about the trip. Oh no, we got many more places to see yet. I'm talking about the United States Lighthouse Society Lake Erie South Tour. No, we found more lighthouses, and we're at one of them right now. Well, I made it to the Celina Rotary Lighthouse. And it's unique, not just because it's a lighthouse or the age or the history, but it's located on a man-made lake near the city of Celina, Ohio. At its completion in 1845, Grand Lake St. Mary's was the largest man-made reservoir in the world. The Celina Rotary Lighthouse was built in 1986 and stands at a height of 40 feet. And behind me is the Northwood Lighthouse, or Eddystone Lighthouse, which is found on the north side banks of the Grand Lake of St. Mary's. Located on private property, the Northwood Lighthouse was built in 1923. At a height of 50 feet, the light was even equipped with a Fresnel lens. No longer active, the Northwood Lighthouse conical tower is a tribute to the famous lighthouse Eddystone in the English Channel, but at only 2/3 the size. The lighthouse behind me is Behms Lighthouse, also known as Grimm Memorial, named after Stanley Mike Grimm, who unfortunately was killed in an auto accident in 1997. Grimm Memorial Lighthouse arrived in April in 2003, and it stands at a height of 48 feet. Located on the southern shore of the lake, the steel frame octagonal tower has a diameter of 5 feet at its top, growing to 12 feet at its base. The history behind these lighthouses at the Grand Lake St. Mary's was that Glenn Cobb in the early 90s wanted to have a lighthouse at each corner in all 4 directions. Well, he succeeded at 3 out of the 4, and we got to see all 3 of them today. A trifecta. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. A show of this magnitude has a lot of people helping me put it together in front and behind the camera. I would like to thank the staff and volunteers at Fairport Harbor Marine Museum and Lighthouse for allowing us inside and all the way up the tower. I would like to thank the volunteers and staff at the Ashtabula Harbor Maritime and Surface Transportation Museum for allowing us access inside their museum. I'd like to thank the captain and the crew of the Holiday for getting us safely to all the lighthouses and back to shore. I want to thank the captain and the crew of the Glass City Pearl for getting us safely to all 3 lighthouses and safely back to shore. And I would like to thank Jeff, our bus driver, and the Lamer Bus Company for providing us safe passage throughout this tour to all the lighthouses and other historic landmarks. And I want to thank the United States Lighthouse Society for providing us this tour and our tour guides, Kelly Bowers and Mike Rosenberger. And I would like to thank the Shadow Tour guides, Maria and Dean Lohmeyer. And finally, I would like to thank the hardest working person I know, my wife, Carlene I, travel consultant, photographer, and shopper. If it wasn't for her, this trip would not be possible. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm John David Bruja on location just inside the state of Wisconsin. This has been a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner. United States Lighthouse Society Lake Erie South Tour. I hope you enjoyed the ride.